Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, ANITA FINLEY.
So I feel so fortunate today because I'm interviewing a lady that I have known for many years. I knew her and her sister when they were performing at the Florida Repertory Theater, which is a big thing in my past, but it was great to now have Avery Sommers here with us because she's going to be doing something very exciting and very important. So welcome to our show, Avery.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Yes, and the show is, and I know you're going to give us the exact title, but it's really the Delany Sisters, and it's how they got to live to be 100 plus, like my book, right?
That's correct.
And when you live to 100, you got a lot of things in your life, don't you?
Yes, you do.
So let's move back and let's talk now about what you're going to be doing, where the show is, and a little bit about it.
All right. Well, the show is at the Saul Theater, and that's in Boca, and it's on Federal Highway at 32nd Street. So
the way that I know is because of the Denny's. That's right on the corner,
That's right on the corner. That's correct, and it's in that strip mall there.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So this new little theater was very lucky to find you, and in your the other actress or actor. I don't know who that is, and I know you'll tell us.
Yes, her name is Karen Stevens, and she's wonderful. She's been around. She's a mainstay in the South Florida area for quite a while, so I think the two of us are going to have a great time doing these roles.
Well, I would say that seems like now that you told me a little bit more about your life, there's a lot of similarities in both of you and the story.
Well, all right, I guess. These ladies never married, and they never had children, Bessie and Sadie, and I've never married and had children either, so I guess there is a bit of similarity there.
Okay, so tell us all about who are they, where did they grow up, what made them so famous?
Well, the thing that I think that made them so famous is that they really are part of American history because they lived to be well past 100, both of them. They were from Raleigh, North Carolina. They lived in New York for more than 75 years, which is really pretty interesting already. Bessie Delany was a dentist. She was the first dentist in the Harlem area. I mean, so that's a lot to say for these women who were well educated. And Sadie, the character that I play, was a high school teacher, which is also quite the thing. She had to do a little fast thinking on her feet to get to be a high school teacher, but she did it, and they were well educated by parents who were also very well educated. So that's a lot to say.
How did they wind up from North Carolina to New York?
Well, they went on a trip. They had 7 brothers, and one of the brothers had gone there. And when they went to visit, they stayed for a few days. They went back home, and they were very excited. They talked to their father, who said, "All right." And so somebody said to the mother, "Aren't you afraid to let your girls go that far and live in Harlem town?" And she said, "No, we've taught our girls well. And anything that they don't know now, too bad."
That's fantastic.
Yes.
So here's a family. You said that the mother actually had been a slave?
The father.
The father had been a
was
slave.
Born a slave, and the mother was what was known as an issue-free Negro, which meant that she looked white, but she never passed for white, and she never had an issue with whatever it was that she was. That's who she was.
And so they lived in North Carolina, which of course was not so friendly as compared to New York.
That's correct.
And that's probably what their brother saw when they said, "Hey, you need to come up here and live the life," right?
Yes, that's right. Somebody needs to come join us here in this utopia.
Okay, so now they, what did they do in their life besides the profession? What was important? And in your play, you're going to talk about this.
I think the thing that was important was family. They came from a very large family, but their parents were really One of them says we were very, very strict and we didn't know very much about sex at all. And I guess maybe that's part of the reason that they lived so long. But they just enjoyed each other. They enjoyed community. They loved going to church. They were church people. It was very important for them to stay together, the two of them. Out of all of the brothers and sisters, those two are the two that everybody knows, that Bessie and Sadie were always going to be together.
And they lived together, I'm sure.
Yes, they did.
So they got a house or whatever they
Yes.
they lived together.
Yes.
And that was a lot of protection, wasn't it, for them?
Yes, for them, yes. Bessie was pretty feisty. So she had a couple of run-ins with life. But Sadie, the character that I play, was a little bit more amiable and easy to get along, and she was sweet in nature. But Bessie was a little outspoken.
So when we go to see the play, which let's talk about that. I think it opens in January.
Yes.
The
Previews the 9th and 10th of January, and we open on the 11th of January, and we run until February 3rd.
Yeah, that's going to be great. We're going to have to drive as many people there as we can because, first of all, a new little theater needs support.
Yes.
How many seats are in the theater?
I think there are 80, maybe
Nice.
Just a few more, but 80 for sure. Yes.
And I'm sure you know this, but what is now Palm Beach Drama Works, they were in a very little theater in West Palm. They had 90 seats for many, many years. Did you ever go there?
I did. I went once. And I'm trying to think of where.
Oh, it's on it's right in downtown West Palm, a little bit on like maybe Banyan or something, and just in a little hole in the wall.
Tiny little hole in the wall.
But
yes.
You know what? It was so intimate and so wonderful because you were right on top of the stage.
Yes, that's right.
And because the actors were so good.
Yes.
And it was only appropriate that they wound up in a big theater, and they're doing the same quality work.
That's correct, and I absolutely love that theater moved to a big space.
Yes.
It was appropriate, and you're right.
So tell us about the entrepreneur who decided to go into the theater world, because it's not easy, the person who you're working for.
Keith Garson?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Well, in 2016, I did a piece at Arts Garage called Bessie Smith, The Life and Blues of Bessie Smith. And he was my producer there. And Jeannie Croft, who is my director for this piece, was my director there. And Keith was always looking for his own venue. And so this is some place that he loves. He feels that it's the kind of venue that people will want to come to. It is also intimate. You walk in and there you are. You're right there. There's no stage up. It's right on the floor level, and everything takes place right in front of the audience. So I think people will love it.
They will,
Yes.
and I'm looking forward so much to see it. I'm going to see it during the previews on Saturday night, and I can't wait to see you because I think, as I said, I knew you as a singer.
Yes.
You have this gorgeous, strong voice.
Thank you.
And now you're telling me that you really, you've always been in acting, but now there's no singing in this.
There's no singing in this. That's correct. And you know, there's something that I like to always say. I don't separate singing from performing acting, because to me, if you can get a song across to an audience, you're acting.
Of course.
Yes. So I've never been able to, in my mind, separate those two. So I never think that I'm separating. But yes, I do sing more than I do straight plays.
Well, it'd be wonderful if there was just one little 2-minute place in this play that you could sing, maybe. And he knows that you're a singer, right?
Oh, yes.
It just didn't work that in.
Right.
All right, so tell us about the playwright.
Well, gosh, you know, I really know very little about her. I do know that this play is taken from a book, and so it was turned into a play. And as we talk through this piece, our director and I, we always go back to the book itself, because there are lots of things that will translate from a book, and there are things that may not translate from a book to a play. So we have been really looking at every line to make sure that we are trying to stay as true to the book, but we're creating our play here. So
Sure you are.
We're having our say.
It's interesting too that we didn't say. I said the Delany Sisters. What is the actual name of the play?
Having Our Say, the Delany Sisters, the First 100 Years.
Right. And so, did they die close to each other?
Pretty much. Bessie died first, and I think she may have been 104.
Oh my heavens!
Right, and Sadie, I believe, lived maybe another year and a half.
So we needed to see what their diet was and what they, how did they last? Did they exercise? What did they do?
Yes, they did. They did yoga every day, even at their advanced age. And they said they ate about 7 fresh vegetables a day and lots of fresh fruit. They took minerals and vitamins and cod liver oil. They did all kinds of amazing things for themselves.
And sounds like, did they eat meat?
I believe they may have, but in the play, we deal with our Papa's birthday and the things that he loved the most. And lots of vegetables in this play.
Okay, so are you actually eating in the play? I mean,
We're not eating, but we're cooking.
You're cooking. Well, when you think about that, 104, 105, and they apparently were in good health. It sounds like until that time.
I think they were, and they had brothers that passed on early on, and their mother, who they lived with for her last years, and when they died of heart attacks. I don't know why, but that's what happened, and I don't really know what actually happened to Bessie and Sadie as far as when they passed on, what happened, but they lived a long time.
It seems to me that I have read or heard about this book. Now he said the Delany Sisters. It's in my brain, unless I just because you've been telling me about it. But I'll tell you one thing that people have asked me, and it's not this play, but I know that you can answer the question. People are so amazed and stunned that actors can remember their lines. I mean, sometimes the lines are so complex, and so how do you do it?
Repetition. Repetition. That's how we do it. You must, I make an effort to just really look at the line and say it, and look at the line and say it. And it fits in my head, in my brain eventually. And with two people working together, it's a rhythm. We have a rhythm that we work from with each other, and what this speech pattern is like, and how do I fit my line in here, and it's repetition.
And there's a producer once told me there's a lot of reality. If you really understand the play, you're really there living it.
That's right.
And the words just come because they make sense once you learn them, right?
Absolutely. And today we were back after Christmas. We had 2 or 3 days off, and then we got back. And when Karen and I ran it, the first scene, we both looked. She said, "This is fun." So that's what we're looking at. We're looking at the fun of the lives of these two women and how we can bring them to life.
Oh, yes, and I know you will. There's no doubt in my mind about it, but there'll be a lot of lessons learned.
Yes.
When you start, because I really don't remember the book if I did read it, but to take someone from one era all the way up to the current, when did they die? What year?
That I don't know. I think they lived into the 1990s.
Oh, they did?
Yes.
So see, you think about that.
Think about that.
What their lives went from, like being somewhere to going to Mars.
That's correct. That's absolutely correct. They lived through many, many decades. And the things that they saw and witnessed, their father who was a slave, they asked once, "Papa, tell us what you remember about being a slave." And they both said, "He never talked much about that."
It's like the people with the Holocaust.
Absolutely.
Do you know that I do finally get some people to talk about it, but it's, things that are unpleasant.
Yes.
You kind of push out of your mind.
Absolutely.
But yet, on the other hand, you have to talk about it so that it never happens again.
That's right. That's right.
Very important.
Yes.
So what kind of outfits do you wear?
Well, we have had a designer come in, and so we're talking about that. But they were elderly women, so they of course had to have really comfortable shoes to walk around in, and appropriate length of dresses, you know, down below the knees, and I think probably long sleeves. But so we don't know just exactly yet what we're going to be wearing, but we have a pretty good idea because there have been lots of photos of the actual women. So we've seen them. We've actually seen those
So
women.
where did the photos?
They're online. Some of them are
and
online.
these are real photos.
Yes, they're
and
photos
everything.
of the real ladies. That's correct.
Oh my goodness! And tell me how they wore their hair.
Well, originally, Bessie had hair that they indicated down to her knees. So they had very, very long hair, Bessie did especially. And I think as they got older, of course, they put it up into a little,
They didn't
little
cut it.
bun. I don't think they ever really cut it. But, you know, as you age, from what I understand, I can't speak for authority yet, but your hair thins. So I think
I can
they
speak
just
to that, yes. And my hair has thinned.
Yes, so they wore it up, and probably out of necessity for maybe cooking and hair getting in the way and things like that. But they just wore it in cute little, either pulled back in a little bun or sort of in the top of their head in a little bun.
Well, I was thinking about their living together, which was so beautiful because everybody wants a close friend if they can get it nowadays.
Yes.
And hopefully it works. But two sisters, even though I'm sure they argued or certain things happened, but that really, in my mind, is one of the reasons they lived so long.
I think so. They had very few moments in this play, and this play really is taken from their words. The book is taken from their words. So in this play, there were very few times that they had an issue with anything. Sadie was very tolerant of Bessie, who was outspoken.
She was the spirited one.
She was the spirited one. And I think she just adored her and loved her and just encouraged her to be who she was.
Right.
Except for very few things.
Yeah, right. And so did they actually live in Harlem as well as work there?
They did. They lived in Harlem. I think... and I think it's like 145th Street, but I'll have to go back and look at that. But yes, they did for a very long time. Very long time.
And you know, for years, Harlem was not something that most people would even go near. But you know, I think it was President Clinton who went there, put offices there, and changed it.
Well, yes, and I was living there at the time.
Oh, really? Tell us about that.
Well, I lived on 138th Street between 5th and Lenox. But I believe at the time that those ladies were living there, it was the center of the black world especially.
Danger.
Oh, well, not so much danger, but a lot of entertainers were there.
Right.
Yes, this was the place to be. If you were going anywhere and whites went up to Harlem, they got dressed up. Everybody got dressed up to go up to Harlem, you know, and it was the place to be. So maybe as years went on, it became more dangerous, but the world became dangerous.
Yes.
You know, so, but at that time when they were there, oh no, it was the place to be.
So, well, tell us a little bit about your life then, personally, because you've been down here.
I've been down here since '07. I was raised here, but then I went away. I went to California when my sister Betty was there. And when she went to New York, I followed her to New York. And so I spent a lot of time in New York, around several different places, mostly in Manhattan. But then I went out on tour. When I came back, I moved up to Harlem.
And so did you do this as a singer or as an actress?
Well, I did a couple of national tours. I did the Best Little Whorehouse in Texas with Anne Margaret.
Oh, that must have been wonderful
That
for
was
you to do
amazing.
that.
It was really amazing. She was, oh gosh, just a joy to be around. She loved to laugh. She loved to pull pranks backstage. And that was wonderful. So I was on tour with her for about 18 months, all told. And then I was on tour with the show Chicago for about 18 months.
Not bad. You really
Not bad.
found yourself some wonderful shows.
Yes. Thank you.
Oh, wow. So then when you're on tour, of course, you don't come back. You just keep going from one city to another.
That's correct.
And then you wound up back here because this really is your home.
That's
isn't it?
right. Yes, it is. I came back here. My dear darling sister Betty passed away, and so my oldest sister and I had to sort of take care of her life, her estate, her everything. And then I decided, well, I think I'll see what my hometown has to offer. And it's been good.
Oh, it has been, because I know I have, seen you in a lot of shows, and you feel comfortable here too. But
yes.
So tell me what, when you first were introduced, how did he find you? Did you audition for this part?
I tell you, I auditioned for the Bessie Smith show. And when I was hired to do that, then sort of towards the end of that, Jeannie Croft and Keith both said that they absolutely loved the script for Having Our Say. And originally, and this was in 2016, they wanted to do a reading of it. But so many things happened, as does happen, and so it was never on their schedule anymore until the beginning of this year, 2018, and they both said, we're going to do a production of Having Our Say, and we'd like for you to do it.
Knocked on the door.
Yes.
And said, are you interested?
Yes,
right?
That's exactly what they said, yes.
And the lady, and tell me what your co-star's name is?
Karen Stevens.
And Karen Stevens, and did you know her before?
Oh, yes, I've known her for quite a while. We've worked together before, so it's really wonderful. But it's been a long time, so it's really nice to, you come full circle in this business. If you sort of stay in the same area, eventually everybody starts to work with everybody.
Yes. Well, that's a very, very nice thing. Well, let's go back now to the play. What do you think is extraordinary? In every play there's some lines or some scenes or something that people walk away with and they don't forget it. What is it for you, do you think?
Oh, I think that it's how these two women walked in the world, as I like to say. They had certain morals, and they had certain mores, and they had the kind of life that they felt comfortable with. They had parents that they knew were looking out for them no matter where they were. As a matter of fact, Sadie says after her father passes away, she said, I always felt comfortable in this world knowing, regardless to where he was, that he was looking out for me. And I think that's the thing that we all will take away from, is that there's somebody there that will look out for you. And those two women had each other.
Okay, so then let's move this to you. Tell us about your parents and how did you get to be so well educated, and what were they like for you?
Well, they were pretty much the same way, really. Both my parents, my father was a high school principal.
Here in South?
Yes, in the Belglade area.
Belglade,
yes,
no kidding.
Way out in the Belglade area, right? And my mom was a school teacher for about 44 years in Palm Beach County.
Oh my heavens! So yeah, you had to be ship up and shape right and all that, right?
Yes, exactly. And they were very much like Sadie and Bessie's parents. We went to school, we went to church, we had family dinner together, we talked about things, and it was okay. Well, if that's what you want to do, then there is nothing that can stop you but you. So I was taught that, I was told that, and I believe that, and I think that I feel sometimes the children now, kids now, adults now, have a bit of a challenge because parents have to work so hard and so many hours and so long and 2 and 3 jobs, and they're not there for their children as much as my parents were there for me. They were there. They were never not there, So I think that that in that way, Betty and I grew up as Bessie and Sadie.
Yeah, you did. I mean, that's kind of too bad. Betty is really here to see this, but in a way, she's here in your heart and everywhere. But see, I grew up as my mother was divorced, single parent, and but she had certain rules and certain lovely sayings about you can't put it in the front cover of the newspaper, don't do it. I'll never forget that.
That's right.
And so those are the things I lived with too, even though I didn't, my father was off doing other things. So yes, parental guidance is very important, and today things are a little different, but I still see, just as I told you, I have triplet grandchildren who are 13, and their mother and father, they watch out for them all the time. And they watch out for each other. You can imagine the three of them.
Yes.
So I think it just depends on what the upbringing is. Even if you work a lot, you can still make valuable time.
That's correct. Absolutely. And I think it's extremely important for your self-worth and how you deal in the world. And I like to say walk in the world because it just gives you that sort of that strength to know that regardless to what happens, there's somebody I can turn to, and they can say, look this way, don't go that way,
right,
go this way,
right.
you know.
Well, did anything bad happen to the Delany sisters that you remember that really struck a note?
Well, you know, there are things that that probably happened that may not actually be in this book, but I think some things we want you to actually see.
Oh, okay. We won't push you on that. But,
yes.
And how long is it 2 acts? How long is the play?
Yes, there are 2 acts, and I think we haven't actually gotten a time on it yet, but maybe the first act runs a little less than an hour, and maybe probably about the same for the second act.
And because you've been in so many plays and you've been involved in so much theater, I have another question for you because I'm asked this all the time. There are many shows, even musicals besides the serious plays, where the second half is better than the first. Why? And a lot of people make the mistake of leaving after the first. Tell me why that is. Why does a writer not infuse certain things to keep people a little bit more excited about the first act?
Well, you know, I don't know that it's the writer. The actor.
So that's really what the writer, because I always say to people, it's going to be great, don't leave, you know, and then they'll say, oh, yeah, it was so great, the second one. Well, you know, they have to build up things, right?
Yes.
So it was, you know, I can't wait to see you. This has been so beautiful having you here.
Thank
and
you so much.
Let's see, so I don't have the information in front of me, so how do we get people to buy tickets? It's called, it's called The Soul?
Yes, SOL Theater, and there is a website online. So, and I don't have the information in front of me either, but
they can go online.
But they can definitely go online.
Theater.
Yes, and pull up Having Our Say.
Having Our Say, the Delany Sisters, 100 years of great work, right?
Yes.
Thank you, Avery Sommers. It was wonderful. Really appreciate your being here with us.
Thank you very, very much. I appreciate you.